Check test 1 2. We have audio. Maybe. Check test 1 2. We do have audio. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I hope everybody had a good week. For those of you that have been following along for quite a while, you'll know where I'm at because the background has changed. For those that haven't, I'm sitting at my dad's kitchen table because the background has changed. Let me turn the mic back off, sorry. So I am in Arkansas, and Dad had a little incident. He had a heart attack as much as maybe 3 days ago. I made the quick trip, the 1,400 plus mile trip, in a couple days, a couple long days, and a short night. And so here I find myself where I spent all summer last summer. So yeah, it's all good. Don't worry about it. We'll make it through it. He's been sent over to a hospital in Rogers, Arkansas, which is west of here a little ways, because they don't treat, heart attacks and other serious things at the local hospital. They're more of a triage type unit, and then they send them to the east, west, one of these directions. I'll apologize in advance for the reduced quality tonight because I am not on my big, fast, gigabit pipe. Everything's good. So let me run over to the chat here and let you know that it's hot here and muggy and I'm sweating. So if you see me breaking the sweat, it's just because it's hot and muggy. Tom Downey says it's cold in Whidbey. Hi, Tom. So good to see you. Hi, Tim. Tim Myers is in. A couple of great guys. Gary D says he installed an RV airflow thingy majigger today, and he's glad I had some smarts how to modify things. Damn, it works. But really, whoever installed my 2-year-old back then and in 2018 could have done it better. Yeah, boy, I tell you what, I've been finding that a lot, especially as I've been rebuilding the truck camper. I find stuff that's just been done so half-assed, it just makes you shake your head. But I guess you got to understand, they're there to put out content. I mean, put out content, put out product. And, unfortunately, it gets to that mentality with a lot of companies where they just want to get it out the door. They really don't care what the quality is. So, anyway, that stuff happens. But I'm glad it's working for you. Great, Gare. Glad to hear that. I see it looks like I'm buffering a little bit. I apologize for that. There's not a whole lot I can do for that at this point. So we'll just get through this the best we can. If it disconnects, peace out, everybody. I'll see you next week. But I think we'll be okay for now. George, aka Dad, got the charger installed, all set. Son did a good job. Dad's shoulder's healing well. We'll be ready for the road trip. Good. I know, George, you'll be headed south here soon. Gary D says with the SmartFlow installed, that the AC seems to be working better. That's a good thing. Vincent RV Life is in Destin, Florida. Are you crazy? What are you doing in Florida in September? It's got to be hot as hell. But he says he's loving being back in the Central Time Zone. I'm not me, not so much, because I live in the Western Time Zone, Mountain Time anyway. But it's all good. Let's see. Yeah, George says that he likes being in LaBelle in the winter. He's on the western edge of the Eastern Time Zone. It's light till 10:30. We live so far north that in the summer we're light till 10:30 for sure. EJ Weiss checking in. Looks like Robert Covington's checking in from Tennessee. Hello, Robert. Sandvan, hi guys. So happy to see you here from Australia, all the way from down under, Um, Robert Black is asking about Dad. He's doing okay at this point, as far as I know. I'll be headed over to the hospital in the morning. I'm sure they'll be doing a good workup on him tomorrow and trying to figure out a strategy for going forward. Yes, Tom, we can cope. Wanda Rutledge says, glad I'm at my dad's and family is more important. Yes. I just decided I'd do this tonight because I just needed a brain break. You know how you get all wound up in stuff, life. And look, let's just have, I know this isn't RV related, but I'll just unload here for a minute. We all may have or have had aging parents. This stuff's going to happen. You just, it's just the way it is, you know, and you just have to put one foot in front of the other and move forward. And thank you, EJ Weiss, for wishing the speedy recovery. I'm sure I will be here for, well, 3 or 4 weeks, maybe longer. We'll know. Eric Myers checking in. He says his inverter charger died. New one ordered. New house batteries. Chassis batteries are now dead. What is draining them? I'm hooked up to shore power. That's a good question, Eric. And there could be a number of things. But if you're, I'd have to know your specific electrical setup to know if there's some connection between your house batteries and your chassis batteries. Um, the thing of it is with a lot of RVs is that they have these sneaky things they do with the chassis batteries that they really shouldn't do. Like I know in my Dutch Star, the lights in the front, so the over dash lights, which would be called the map lights, I think in some cases, or reading lights in some cases, were actually on the chassis batteries. There was a number of other things like the dash radio you would think would be on the chassis batteries, but it was on the house batteries. And there were a couple of other things that I kind of found that way that were kind of funky that you would think would have been on the house batteries that were on the chassis batteries. For example, my slides ran off the chassis batteries, not the house batteries. In some cases, I've talked to folks with the same year of RV, and their slides run off the house batteries, not the chassis batteries. So it's really kind of strange. I don't know how. I I don't know how some manufacturers think about that. Um, the only thing I can tell you, Eric, is that you can, if you disconnect your house batteries totally, then you can disconnect the negative on your chassis battery. Now, there's going to be a certain bit of load on the chassis batteries all the time anyway. Um, Let me ask you, do you have a chassis battery maintainer? So do you have a separate, like on my Dutch Star, I had a little solar panel that charged the chassis batteries. It was dedicated to the chassis batteries. And so I never really worried about them running down. Do you have something like that? Um, the other thing is that it would be really rare for your inverter charger to also charge your chassis batteries. Fleetwood Discovery '06. Okay. What manufacturer on your chassis? Freightliner or Spartan? Um, so I think it's a misnomer that people think that their inverter charger charges everything, and it really doesn't. There may be a smart relay in there, which is often found in Class A's, and what that smart relay does is that it sits there and monitors the chassis batteries. Okay, those are the batteries associated with the chassis functions. Okay, that's the chassis is that part of the rig that rolls down the road. In Eric's case, a Freightliner. Um, and then the house, of course, has separate batteries for oftentimes, the house lighting. Anything that's 110 is going to come off off the house batteries, that kind of stuff. And so I think that um, the misnomer is that people think when they have an inverter charger that charger is not only charging the house batteries, but it's charging the chassis batteries. And that's typically not the case because the switch that's in there, that will monitor those chassis batteries, and when they are at a charged state, some preset voltage, will automatically switch over and charge the house batteries from the alternator on your rig. Doesn't work the other way. It doesn't go if the chassis batteries are low, it switches back and allows the charger on the house batteries to charge the chassis batteries. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So with all of that said, there's probably some kind of a load, and I'm thinking Tom went through a little bit of a run around with figuring out what we would like to call a sneak current or parasitic load. I think it was Tom, one of the guys. I know that George had a bit of a run around a bit trying to figure out um, a, um, a sneak current or something that was discharging his chassis batteries. There was another regular, and I don't recall who it was. Chime in if you're out there. Um, that I guess I'm gonna have to quit pounding the table because obviously I can see my camera bouncing. Sorry about that. That was having trouble with that. Their batteries getting discharged while they were sitting static, but yet on shore power. I just don't recall who it was. If you're out there and in the chat tonight, drop a comment, let it and remind me. I'm going to run over to the comments. Oh, so it's a Fleetwood Discovery on a Freightliner. Okay, I suspect that the inverter charger does not charge the house battery, the chassis batteries. Excuse me. It only charges the house batteries. Yeah, right. Called keep alive voltage. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, we call it sometimes sneak current. Um, phantom current. It's that little bit of current that like a device will draw. For example, home TVs are famous for this. That instant on requires that a little bit of current is running all the time to that TV or that appliance, whatever it might be. And so that when you push that button, it turns on instantly. And like I said, that's often called sneak current, phantom current. Keep alive voltage is another thing that they call it for sure. And so yeah, your inverter charger will not charge your chassis batteries. How long have you been parked, Eric? Let me get back over to the chat here because somebody may have come up with something really brilliant that I'm just not picking up on. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, good to slow down sometimes. Yeah, Gary. Gary Sharp's in from Ohio. Hey, Gary, good to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us. Eric does not have a solar charger for his chassis batteries. Okay. Eric says, if I get the Onan to start, will it charge the chassis batteries? Probably not, because I believe the generator is going to be isolated only to the house circuits. So it's only going to be sending juice to your house batteries and to your appliances, to your 110 load inside the RV. And I don't know that for sure on the Discovery, but I would bet $9 to $2 that that's probably the case. Tom Downey, I must charge my chassis batteries separately. He has a 2.5 amp charger hooked to the chassis to keep them charged. Yeah, that works good too. I had a 20 watt, I want to say I had a 20 watt solar panel, and that was enough to make up for all of the sneak current, phantom current that the chassis drew when the rig was parked. So like, the computer draws just a tiny little bit of current to keep the memory in it. There's other things inside the chassis that will keep drawing a little bit of current. Gary D. Good comment, Gary. Wasn't it easier when you picked up a phone and it always worked for $8.95 a month and you had a 1954 Jeep single axle trailer and your family was having fun? For sure. I'm going to have to go back and I'll just rescan here to make sure I haven't missed anybody tonight. You'll have to excuse me. You'll excuse me. I am a little tired. Kind of a long ride and then a big long day at sitting in the hospital with my thumb and boop in my butt, waiting for doctors to tell me what's going on. Been parked for a month. Okay. You're welcome, Eric. Tom Downey says some chargers are not hooked up to the chassis. Absolutely. I think that's actually rare. I think there's probably a reason they don't do that. And my suspicion would be to keep the chassis batteries from being overcharged. Now that I don't know for sure. I just think it's right. Who says that? I don't know it for sure. It's somebody I watch online that says that. Tim does have. Oh, Tim, yeah, Tim has a 10-watt solar. I had a 10-watt too, but when I replaced the roof, Tim, I went to a 20-watt. Hey, Round Count Scouter's in from Edinburgh, Pennsylvania, visiting his brother. Hi, Tim. Or I mean, Round Town. Yeah, I'm in from Northwest Arkansas tonight. So yeah, if you do have any questions, be sure and throw them over in the chat window. If you have questions and you're shy, feel free to email them to me, trbolin@gmail.com, and then I'll be happy to answer your questions offline and then bring it back to the group if they're interesting. And if you want to remain anonymous, that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that, as long as I can share your question if I think it might be interesting to the audience. And most people aren't, too upset with sharing their information. Tom Downey, hook a voltage meter in line with the negative pole. Read the voltmeter to keep the alive voltage. Yeah, and the other thing you can do there is read the sneak current, which is the same concept, except you're going to go to current and disconnect the negative terminal from the batteries, connect a meter to the battery cable and a meter to the negative pole, and turn it to the current reading. Make sure you set the meter to current and you have the current set up. And with everything turned off in the rig, that's going to tell you your sneak current. You're welcome, Eric. What kind of inverter charger did you get, by the way? Just curious what you chose. I was just in the process of actually here. Here's how things have gone on the truck camper reno, at least last week. Of course, knowing I was having to leave, I went out and I wrapped it up all like a Christmas present. I was just in the process of finishing the insulation, and fortunately, I had three big blocks of 1.5 inch insulation that I could put on the roof. Because one of the problems with the roof um, is that because it hadn't been framed, the frame is inverted, right? So you have a smooth surface for the ceiling inside. Then you have the frame sitting on top of that, and if you put a tarp over that, what happens is the rainwater accumulates in between the framing members. Okay, and so you end up with the rainwater sitting on the roof. And I was trying to think, okay, I can only stretch this tarp so tight before I'm going to have problems. And I thought, oh my gosh, I got all this insulation. So I just threw the 3 sheets of insulation I had left to finish the insulating on the roof up there. They were whole sheets. And luckily it covered most of the roof. And then I took some scraps of 3/4 inch plywood and some various other things to build up the other side where there was like about a 5 foot piece that, that I couldn't cover with the insulation. And so I just covered it kind of with plywood. So I'm hoping like hell, because I'm probably going to be here for, I'm thinking 2 to 4 weeks, maybe 6, before I get things wrapped up here. Um, and uh, anyway, the long short story is I hope I got it covered up. I probably won't know until October. Tom Downey says the system has different battery voltages, lead acid, lithium, both charge at different voltage. Yeah, mine did too, Tom, but I really didn't have a problem with that. Because I had lead acid in the coach, but I had lithium in the uh, uh, for the house batteries. The problem with that is that, well, it's really not a problem because your alternator, depending upon, well, you have an older rig, so you're not going to have a smart alternator. Okay, um, it's going to send this when the. Let me back up here. There's a relay in the system that these alternator charging devices have in the Class A's. We're specifically talking about Class A's now, and some select Class C's, but mostly Class A's. And so when that regulator flips over to the house batteries or whatever, it wants to get them to the charged voltage of 13.6, which is 1 volt below what your lithium acid batteries typically will read when they're fully charged. So what'll happen is the alternator won't charge the house batteries fully, okay? Because they're not fully charged till they're 14.6 volts. So, but it does add current to the lithium-ion batteries. It just will not fully charge them. You're going to be dependent upon your inverter charger or your solar, if you have solar, to finish charging those lithium-ion batteries. But yeah, your alternator is going to send current. Depending upon the alternator, I think it's 14.2. I don't know. It depends on the alternator. But 13.6 to 13.8 is considered a fully charged lead acid battery. And that typically most chargers you set up to start floating, sending the float voltage at 13.6. Excuse me. So yeah, please do leave a comment if you're so inclined to ask a question. I had a really interesting one come in on another of my YouTube videos from a gal. Hey, KX Racer J, so nice to see you. I'm in Arkansas tonight. You might notice the different background. I don't have it right here in front of me. I might be able to pop it up here real quick, so excuse me while I take a quick look. But what she was having is they've had a problem with, and they have a discovery. So maybe, Eric, you might know this since you have a discovery. But they had a discovery, and they were putting in new sconces, lights in. Excuse me. They were putting in new reading lights in their bedroom, and from what I could tell, asked them to send me a picture. I should probably just check real quick because I just saw a bunch of emails pop in. Sorry, I'm kind of doing this on the fly tonight. Usually I'm slightly less prepared. I do not see a email from her. But they had hooked up the light, black wire to black wire, white wire to white wire, and it kept blowing the switch, or it kept blowing their fuse. And what I could get from them is that there was at the switch, there were 2 black wires that came into the switch and 1 went out, obviously to the light fixture. Well, my thought was that the 2 black wires coming into the switch is just a daisy chain. So a power wire comes into the switch, which provides power to that fixture, but then it goes over maybe to the other reading light, but it goes to a different device to provide power to it. The same with the whites, and usually, not always, but usually the black will be your hot wire or your positive, and the whites are your ground or negative. And so I don't know if anybody else has run into this where if you hook black to black, white to white, you keep blowing fuses. But I haven't, and I haven't got a picture from them because I really need, something like that, you really need to see a picture of the condition. Eric Myers, man plan, God laughs. Yeah, exactly. Tom Downey, he says, I have a 30 to 30 DC charger, still won't charge the chassis batteries. Well, it should at least bring them up to 13.6 or 13.8 volts, Tom. If it doesn't, there's something wrong. Because, yeah, I mean, and technically the alternator, I mean, it's going to sense that the batteries are charged at 13.6 volts. But if your house batteries are less than 13.6 volts and the alternator, your DC to DC charge controller is working properly, it should be sending, up to 30 amps to your house batteries until they read 13.6 volts, which is where the alternator will stop sending voltage. When I say stop sending voltage, it only sends a minimal amount. The Hope Bus is here. You guys are great. Thanks so much for watching and your very kind comment over on the Sunday's truck camper renovation video. Gary D says Renogy makes a really neat charge controller. If you have solar, all three battery types are supported. Yeah, Renogy is who I'm going with on my solar inverter charger setup. I started to tell a story and then I got distracted by something shiny. How that works. And so I was online and I watch Bus Life New Zealand. Uh, it's a build, they're builders, but they were interesting enough. I followed them into their after build life. Okay, so they were in New Zealand, right? So I followed them around New Zealand. Nice couple. But he's building a second bus and just did his solar, well, his inverter charger setup. And they have, Victron has the perfect system that has a 1600 watt, approximately, they actually listed as 1600 volt amps, which really works out to about 1800 volt or watts in the US, roughly, with the solar charge controller, the whole 9 yards, uh, DC to DC charge controller, all in one box. And so I reached out to the Idaho distributor of Victron and asked him, I says, what can you do for this? I said, oh, and by the way, I have a YouTube channel and maybe we could work something out. And he wrote back and said, yeah, I might be interested in that. Let me check this out. And it turns out that's only available for 50 hertz systems, which is New Zealand, Australia, everything European, basically. So unfortunately, I got stumped on that because that would have been the perfect unit. It was the perfect size, everything. Kex Racer's reporting he made it back from first camping trip with the truck camper. Trip was a success, and the camper kept us nice and dry in the 30-mile-per-hour wind and the rain on the ocean's coast. That's awesome, dude. I cannot wait to do that in mine. Unfortunately, it looks like that's going to have to wait for a while for me. Judy Kimbrough checking in. Hi, Judy. No worries. You didn't miss much. You're a regular viewer, so you might recognize the background. I'm in Arkansas. It's about this time of the night. I'd like to do a little bit of, I don't know, social media begging, if you will. That thumbs up is always greatly appreciated. Helps get the video ranked up. Maybe more people will get to see it. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Ring the notification bell. I brought all my data and stuff with me. I may not make it to having a video out this Sunday, but I definitely have it all in hand, and I'll be getting back to work on that. Oh, I'm sorry, because I'm really kind of tired too, but I'll be getting back to working on that just as soon as I can sit down and work on it. I was about 2/3 of the way done with this Sunday's video, so I don't have a lot of work to do on that, but I'll get it wound out. My website, if you'll visit it, that's always very useful. And then, of course, your support of my affiliate links through Amazon, Renogy, RecPro is also greatly appreciated. And I thank you in advance for that. And as usual, throw a comment or a question in. I'm sure happy to answer your questions if I can. And of course, if I can't, we'll figure it out amongst us. And if we can't figure it out amongst us, then I'll research it and we'll talk about it next week. He did, Tim. Tim asked KX Racer. I think it was it last week or 2 weeks ago. The KX Racer was having trouble with water leaking into his heater. And if you'll give me just 1 second, I believe I can whip that one up and show you his pictures that he sent me of his fix. Essentially what he did, I think he went to Vintage Camper Parts. Help me out there, Jay. I think he went to Vintage Camper Parts and got, oops. It helps if you spell correctly if you're searching your email for something, if you know what I mean. There he is. Okay. And let's see. Is this the one? Okay, yeah, cool. Let's see here. I think I can share with everybody. If you haven't been following along, it was, I think, a couple weeks ago, Jay shared some photos of his furnace that had leaked, and it's going to take a minute. I'm on a slow link, but as soon as those pop up, I'll share those. Let me jump over here so I can see the comments. Um, but he got a ring cap. Yeah, he says he got a ring cap, aluminum ring cap. Solved the issues. Also checked for water behind the furnace after I drove it 3 hours in the rain. I glued a dog dish bowl where it was dripping. It was dry in the bowl. Perfect. Here's another trick for you, Jay. In the future, toilet paper. Just take a little bit of toilet paper, put it underneath where you suspect a leak, and then go about your business for a while, and then come back. And even if it's leaked and dried out, that toilet paper will be stained. And so I tell that to folks who think they have a water leak, but they're not sure. A little bit of toilet paper, paper towel works too. But any kind of absorbent paper, if you put it under where you suspect you have a leak, then if there is a leak and it drips on that, even if it dries out, you're going to see a stain on that paper. You're going to see it got water on it. So there's your $12 tip for the evening. Wink, wink. Judy says, "Sorry, what happened to my dad? He had a little heart attack. Um, as unserious a heart attack as a heart attack can be unserious. He may have had it as many as 3 days ago. Um, and when I say unserious, unserious to a man who had a double bypass and a mitral valve replacement in 2011. So he seemed to be okay. They were sending him to a specialist hospital. I will find out more tomorrow." Robert Black asks, "Is there any time when the solar system on a fifth wheel would try to charge your truck batteries to the 14.6 volt bulk?" No. If everything is hooked up correctly. All right. Now that's a big if. Yeah, on a fifth wheel, it's very unlikely, unless you added one, there is any kind of a charge wire or any kind of a DC to DC charge controller like we were talking about. Like Tom was mentioning earlier, he had a 30 amp DC to DC charge controller. The nice thing about charge controllers is they are one way and they're one way only. They go from the alternator to the house batteries, not in the reverse. So your solar panel will not charge your chassis batteries, okay? Provided everything is installed and set up correctly. Hope that helps. I hope us. Okay, yeah, this is a great question. We want to buy the Blue Eddy solar generator AC 500, but we're a little hesitant on their offer. Pay now for a deal and receive it in December. With the way the world is, it's a lot of cash to spend and wait. I would agree. How much are you saving? What is that a fair trade-off? Um, I'll circle back and get your question in a minute, Robert. I just picked that up. I might have missed because I've been scanning the comments and trying to answer questions. How much is the discount, Hope? Yes, KX Racer, I do plan to add a rear view camera on my truck camper. And in fact, I pulled 12 volt power for it to directly over my door. Um, a constant 12 volt power so that I could install it and already have power there. And I plan on going wireless, but I have not picked a vendor or manufacturer yet. So I don't know if I could make a recommendation at this point. I was starting to work on that particular part of it when all this came up. Save $3,000. How many percent is that off? Hope. $3,000, that's pretty significant. What's your risk? And then the second thing is, okay, so let's say you put it on a credit card. How long can you dispute the charge on your credit card? So in other words, if you have, let's say, 90 days to dispute the charge, and they've given you a delivery date of less than 90 days from now, then the risk might be minimal because you can always dispute the charge. I didn't get the product. Okay. Those dispute periods, I think, I don't know if they're fixed by, some government entity, but I would find out on the credit card I was going to use uh, to purchase it with, how long is my opportunity to dispute the charge? If that window overlaps the window that they can deliver it for you, I think your risk is minimal, and you probably save the $3,000, and you'll probably be good. The other thing is, I think Blue Eddy's a pretty solid, reputable company, with the one exception of them calling their devices generators drives me crazy. They are not generators, damn it. A generator is a rotating device that makes alternating current, unless it's an old car from the 40s and 50s when the generator made DC current through some rectification and some other things. But a generator makes current. A solar generator that they're talking about, it makes current, but there is no motion involved, and it just rubs me the wrong way. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. But yeah, that just drives me crazy. Them calling those things, and it's just in Blue Eddy. All of them call them a generator, and they're not a generator. Damn it. Okay, let me go back here because I'm afraid I might have missed a comment that I wanted to get to. That I want to. Oh, it looks like Gary might have retracted it. Yeah, there you go. KX Racer says on his, he did the same thing with 12-volt power ready to use and wireless, so we're in the same boat. Well, then I will look to you for advice and recommendations when I get ready to do my wireless camera setup. I honestly had just started looking at those, Jay. Seriously, I mean, I even have my book here. Oh, I hope I brought my book. Let's see. I have to look. It's got to be here somewhere. Those of you that follow the channel know I'm a Luddite. Here it is. And I have to put everything on paper. The first thing is, a piece of paper doesn't require a battery. It's so much harder to lose this than this. And I had just started working on cameras. I don't even know if I have any notes on it yet. But yeah, so I had, I have this diary. I don't know if I've shared this with you guys for a while. This is kind of how I did my electrical layout. It'll go into the computer eventually. But so I treat this onion paper, this really skinny paper, as overlays, and then each of these is a different layer, like you would get in a CAD system. So this is all the LED lights I had planned. Oh, I skipped this. Here's all the 110 power. I know these are hard to see. Next week I'll have my big camera and everything set up. But I think you get the idea, Got this, which is kind of the floor plan layout. I know it's really hard to see. Let me see if there's so much latency here. Let me get over to my other camera here so I can kind of monitor this more real time. Yeah, I know it's pretty rough. I'll have better pictures for you next week. But yeah, I keep this diary. It keeps, I keep lists of things I need to get taken care of, and that kind of stuff. So anyway, throw this out of the way for a minute. But yeah, I don't know if I even got any much of a start on it. But I do remember last week, the middle of the week, starting to look for cameras. Robert Black, yeah, that's a really good point, Robert, and I think that's something that maybe we should chat about. But I think he says, well, I think the only reason a company, we're speaking about Blue Eddy, asking for a pay now to ship later, is they need capital for stock, and that's a problem. I would agree with that, but on the other hand, they could also be doing a pre-order system. I know that it looks like the stream is getting really choppy. I apologize for that. I know I just got chopped out here. Okay. But they may be doing a pre-order system to see what the interest is so they can tell whoever's manufacturing it for them to make X number of units. Because I don't know what the cost of the new system is. If you don't, would you mind sharing with us what the initial cost is, Hope Bus, of the AC 500? But they probably have a lot of upfront capital they're going to have to lay out to manufacture these, and to save cash flow, they may be saying, okay, if we can figure out we need 7,000 of these, then we'll order 7,000. But if we only need 3,000, we don't want to order 7,000. So there's two underlying factors going on there. The other thing is Blue Eddy is a private company still. So my guess is they probably need to do some capital planning to order the correct amount of equipment for their anticipated demand. All right. Yep. It's all good. All right. So any other questions, comments? I know I'm a little bit uh, not as sharp as usual tonight, but we'll make it work. Yeah. Oh, let's see. Did I have anything else? That I was headed to do that. I told you something shiny comes along, I get distracted really easily, which is why I have a book and I make lists. Just let me run over here because it's everything is the last 3 or 4 days are kind of a blur. We spoke about the wall sconces. There's a couple, but they're all old questions that we've chatted before about on the stream. So there we go. Robert's chiming in. For those of us that are looking for cameras, Jay, KX Racer. Robert Covington says he's pleased with the Furrion Vision Wireless on the back of his 32 RLS Alliance. So I'm assuming a 32 RLS is a 32-foot rig, and the camera's working great. That's impressive. So thanks. Hope Bus says, I have a list book too. Yeah, all great minds think alike, right? All right. I think we're going to probably go ahead and wrap this one up. Unless any other questions, we'll hang here for just a minute. Looking forward, I have tons of content with me to be able to produce additional truck camper videos, which will be coming out on Sundays still. I was somewhere in Colorado Sunday night. Apologize for those of you who were on the stream and I wasn't there for the premiere. Yeah, I was in the zone driving across. Well, I was probably actually in Denver, and in fact, I know I was in Denver around 7. Oh, hey, Jay's giving us an update. Excellent. He had an issue with his batteries. He says an update on his 470 amp hour battery bank. All seems good. 12-volt system. I used 70 amp hours over the camping trip. The Victon battery monitor said 89% charge, and the voltage after arrested was 12.7. Perfect. Well, you dodged a bullet there. But see, that's the thing of it, is you only drew those down once, Jay. Sorry, KX Racer and Jay are equivalent. That's his name. KX Racer's his screen name. I guess you call it handle. So that's good. You probably dodged a bullet on that one. Um, and yeah, if you spent the whole weekend on them and you only use 70 amp hours, you should be in good shape. Thanks, Hope Bus. Have a great night yourself and a happy week. All right, we're going to wrap this one up. Thanks everybody so much for watching. I surely appreciate it. Thanks for all of the good thoughts for Dad. I'm sure things will work out fine. And I will see you here next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And also, we'll have a premiere that I should be able to make on Sunday night at 7 p.m. And I'll hold here for just a second. Thanks, George. Appreciate you. Thanks, KX Racer. Have a good night yourself. So glad your batteries are going to make it. That's an expensive outlay, so good on you, man. Happy for you. All right, let's call her good. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Until then, good night. Peace. Bye bye. Thanks, Gare. Good night, Tim.